Hey, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today I want to talk to you guys about spoon fishing, specifically vertical jigging with a spoon. There are a lot of different spoons on the market. You know, everybody seems to have their favorites. Some guys use just a basic Castmaster. Some guys will use the small versions of saltwater spoons, maybe like a P-line spoon or little spoons that imitate like the pin minnows. Personally, I use Blade Runner spoons, the old Duh spoon, and I don't think that there's anything that can compare to them. The way they fall in the water, your colors, your options, sizes, uh, they're just dialed in for the style of spooning that I really like to do. That deep vertical spooning. Basically, I use three sizes primarily. Occasionally I'll use a small spoon. Once in a while I'll go all the way down to a 3/4. But my three main sizes are going to be the 1.5 ounce, which is a little bit fatter bodied spoon. 1.5 ounce sounds like a ton of weight until you start fishing these baits. It's all about getting that thing to the bottom. But that 1.5 ounce spoon, because it has a wide body, as it falls, that hook will roll over onto the top and it gets just a great flutter, really great flutter. I love that spoon, especially if there's no current and I'm fishing, we'll say, shallower than 30, 35 feet. If I'm going any deeper than that, or if there's a little bit of current, or if they're specifically targeting shad, I'll switch over to an 1.75 ounce. Just a little bit heavier, a little bit slimmer profile, sinks quite a bit faster, but it still gets a really nice flutter. If I'm in current, I step up to a 2 ounce, or if I'm going really deep. Because the thing about spooning, you know, a 2 ounce spoon sounds like a ton. It sounds like you're throwing a swim bait, right? But the whole thing about the spoon is getting it back down to those fish as quickly as possible. When the fish are not aggressive, no big deal. But when you're spooning, you're specifically looking for schooling fish. You're trying to activate that entire school. When you do that successfully, it's only going to last for a short period of time. So if you're fishing a 3/4 ounce spoon and it takes 20 seconds to get down there versus a 2 ounce spoon and getting there in 6 seconds, you're literally spending more time in front of those activated fish before they shut back down. So that heavy spoon, that bigger size, really gets back down there right away, gets you back in front of those fish. You can stick more of them before it's over. And as big as that sounds, let me see what I have. So this is a Kitech, a 4.8 size Kitech, just for comparison. They're basically identical in size. So a 2 ounce spoon, even though it's heavy, not a big bait. Anybody can throw that. And you're not trying to cast it. You're just dropping that thing to the bottom. So you don't need a big heavy rod for it. Now, that brings us to equipment. When I'm throwing the spoon, I like to use something between a 7-foot and a 7'6", even a 7'8", anywhere in that range. Just a medium heavy rod. If I'm catching some smaller fish, sometimes I'll even go to a heavy just so I can really horse them. But if they're good size fish, go to a medium heavy. You drop that spoon all the way down to the bottom, straight. As soon as it hits bottom, I'll engage that reel, get the slack out. Then what I like to do is I'll hop it up, and then when you drop that rod back down, you need there to be a little bit of slack in the line. If there's a lot of slack in the line, you'll never feel them bite it on the fall, and the bite almost always comes on the fall. So if there's a lot of slack, you'll never even know that it happened. They'll just hit it, it's a hard object, they'll let it go. But you also don't want to be on a tight line, because if you rip it up and follow it down, rip it up and follow it on a tight line, then all the bait's doing is going up, going down, going up, going down. There's none of that flutter. So you need a semi-tight line. That's probably the most complicated part of spooning, and it's not complicated. So I pop it up, and then I follow it back down with just a little bit of bow in the line, so that if anything happens, I still feel it, but it's slack enough that the bait can still flutter and have its natural action. That's how I like to fish them. Now, how hard do you rip them? That has to do with fish activity. If the water's warm, if the fish are really aggressive, I'm really ripping that spoon. if it's starting to get cold, and especially as we get into the dead of winter, because this can work all winter long, I'll get all the way down to where I'm literally flip-flopping the spoon on the bottom. Just a bump in the rod tip is all you're gonna do, and I'll come down and smash that thing. Just barely flip-flop it. But normally, we'll say a good 3 to 5 feet of lift, and then follow that spoon back down. You know I like to throw braid, so I generally throw this on 50 to 65 pound braid. Sometimes I go a little lighter, and then I'll throw it on a 15 to 20 pound mono or fluoro leader. If you go any lighter on the braid, the problem is that the braid is so flimsy, it doesn't have any body, so it can wrap the rod tip when you're doing that hop. You don't want that, so that heavier, more rigid braid will eliminate that problem. Other people, they like to throw it on straight fluoro, straight mono. I know that Rick, the guy who makes these spoons, owner of Blade Runner, if I'm not mistaken, he throws them on 20 pound straight mono, and that works great. Hook-wise, they come with solid hooks right out of the package. Once I start to dull those hooks, I'm going to switch them out. Usually put on an Owner ST36. That's a 1X hook, just a standard strength hook. But if I'm really getting into bigger fish, or especially if I'm throwing these for stripers, because I throw them for striper, largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, the whole gamut. If you're going stripers, I'll step up to a 3X treble, maybe even a 4X treble, and then use that heavier rod, and you can really just stick it to them. And when you hook fish on a spoon, because there's 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of lead out in front of their mouth, you've just got them in the lips, that thing's out there flapping, it's really easy for those hooks to rip themselves out. So this isn't the ocean. You don't want to reel down and pump that fish. You don't want to do this stuff. You want to stick them and then just start grinding. That's the best way to land those fish. If you've got a net man, great. If you don't, they're in the boat. Because if you get them up to the surface and they start jumping and splashing, they're going to spit that bait out most of the time, because there's so much weight flapping in front of their mouth. That weight's pulling against that hook, and it just rips it out. Colors, it's personal preference. They eat these things. Morning Dawn is probably the #1 for the smallmouth and spotted bass. That's sort of a pinkish purple profile. You can get them with or without UV. That's a personal preference. The stripers and the bass, frankly, I love chartreuse. You got sort of the trout pattern, and then you've got the shad, which is your like black and white metallic, totally a shad profile. That's a killer as well, but color is really just a preference thing. They all work. But this year, get yourself an assortment of spoons. When you start seeing those schooling fish on the graph, that's where this is going to come into play. I'll throw that jigging spoon anywhere from, we'll say 15 to 100 feet of water, depending on the lake. But most of the time when you're catching the good quality fish, fishing anywhere in that like 25 to 45 feet of water. It sounds deep to a lot of people, but when you're throwing a big heavy spoon, you're on the bottom faster than you can get a Senko to sink down in a tree. It's no big deal. Drop it down there, hit the bottom, start fishing. If they're not there, reel it up, move to the rest. The key is to find where the bait fish and the bass are coming together. If those bass are controlling those bait fish and really ambushing them, it's lights out. It's one after another until you've worn that school out. That's really what you're looking for. Hope this information helps you guys throw a spoon this fall, this winter. It's a great way to get those super aggressive deep fish as well as those lethargic fish once the water starts getting cold. Oh, don't forget, Tactical Bassin apparel is now available. We've got the sweatshirts, hats, shirts. We appreciate your guys' support. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon.